Welcome to Don't Do Stupid Shit to Your Body on OMTimes Radio with inventor, author, engineer, and rebel Gail Lynn. Gail has over 3 decades of solving her own health mysteries and then helping thousands of others find a better quality of life through sound, light, frequency, and vibration. She has witnessed countless stories of people harming themselves, some resulting in death, just because they didn't know any better. Her hope is to educate people to be more discerning and critically think about the sources of information being researched, as well as products and modalities being used to determine if or how they are biased and misleading. Don't Do Stupid Shit is inspiring, honest, authentic, and unapologetic. Listen now to laugh and learn from Gail Lynn and her guests as they discuss how to be more discerning with healers, energy modalities, what you put into your body, and, most importantly, to listen to your body. Here is your host, Gail Lynn.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have a very special guest today, but I think all our guests are special, right? Oh my gosh, well, I have to start out with jokes because Chris loves the jokes to start out with. And I'm sure he gets so bored probably listening to all these shows. Some stuff probably he's interested in and some not. So what is an egg's favorite football team? The Chicago Bears. Chick, get it?
Say it again.
The Chicago Bears, like a chick. Tweet, tweet. Which gas station do eggs use? Shell.
Oh, of course. Yes.
So if you don't have a Shell gas station, we have Shell gas stations. And then the other one, I had to pick 3 because, I love the number 3. What does a meditating egg say? Omelet.
Omelet. There you go. That's brilliant.
So there you go. That's how we always start out the show, with a joke or 2 or something. So I guess let me just say that I want to kind of tell my story about how we met, and then you can tell your story, and it'll probably be different.
Okay, sounds good.
So one day I was sitting at my computer, and our mutual friend, Sandy Sedgebeer, said she needed to make an introduction. And I think she was either at your house, or I think she was at your house, yeah. And so she calls me up and says, you got to meet this lady, Suzy Miller. I'm like, who's Suzy Miller? And she says, well, you guys just need to meet. And we got on the phone. And I remember you saying that the kids had kind of expressed to you that there would be a pod that would come to the planet, and you couldn't figure out what this crazy pod was going to be or how this was all going to work. And you knew it was eventually going to show itself. And boom, you said the harmonic egg is the pod. And I don't usually talk about the harmonic egg. I want to more or less educate, and we totally will educate today. But we're gonna talk about the harmonic egg and autism today. But that's how I remember us meeting and crying, and just, when you said the harmonic egg is the pod that the kids were telling me about, I just remember started crying.
Yeah. And you remember it just about the same way I do. And I think the only thing I would add to it is that I think it was January 2019 is when the collective consciousness of the children started coming to me, and they kept talking about this pod. It's like, there's a pod, and it's going to help us to better integrate. And I remember hearing it, and I, was connected to a lot of different people that did a lot of different technologies. I thought I was supposed to create it. I didn't know how the heck I would do that because I don't have your background or your skill set. So I was just like looking all over, and had talked to quite a few different people with a lot of different technologies. And then Sandy was there, put us together on that fateful day. And I just remember listening to you talk, Gail, and just connecting with you as a human being, as a person, and feeling right from the very beginning that was it. It was just a match. And I think those tears were very much tears of recognition, both of you and, maybe our collaborative soul journey, and also just what the kids had said, absolutely being able to find that. And I think I also remember being on a plane within maybe a week or two of that conversation and being in the egg at the center that you had in Colorado and checking out, is this it? Was that true? And I remember sitting in the egg that day and having my session, asking the collective consciousness of the kids, is this what you had intended? And I just saw all these different kids, literally coming out of pods. And as they were coming out of the pods, or the eggs that we knew it to be at that point, they were coming out of the eggs and they were just being themselves. They were just being who they were here to be. And I can't think of anything better. So
I remember you telling me it looked like there were these pods just hanging from this tree of life, and they were just coming down and opening up, and the kids were so authentic.
Yes.
That was the one thing I wrote a list of 3 things, what we love about Suzy Miller. And that's the first one, is you have taught me so much, and just how to be a better observer, to tune into our energies and be authentic. And my horse, Holly, has taught me that as well, as a nonverbal communication.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember how afraid I was of the kids because of all the stories I heard about them being destructive and angry? And you said, Gail, once you open your heart to them and you show them who you are, I'll start crying now. You said that, they wouldn't be that way. They get frustrated when people aren't trying to support them,
connection,
see them. And I'm quoting, see them.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, for me, it's the kid, just like Holly has taught you, about that authenticity and that sensitivity to authenticity. I've learned that from the collective consciousness of the children. I've learned that through every client that I've worked with for these last 25 some odd years. And it's not always easy. It's like, we know that about ourselves. It's not always that easy to be authentic, especially when we might have all kinds of reasons to not show ourselves, to not fully show, or not allow ourselves to be as vulnerable as maybe these kids are actually requiring, because they just want to know you have an open heart. They want to know that you care. And a lot of times that alone can kind of mitigate a lot of those behaviors that, any person who's not used to hanging out with that population does get afraid of. That's what happens. Yeah.
Well, I was at a grocery store maybe a month ago, and a little girl came up. She's definitely on the spectrum, beautiful. And she just walked right up to me. I like your shirt. And I had this peace shirt on. It was purple and it had daisies down the sleeve. And it was one of the Life is Good shirts. And the mom immediately, you could feel her fear.
Yes.
And I felt so bad for her. I just wanted to hug the mom and say, it's okay. I'm not going to treat your child poorly. I'm not going to push her away.
Or judge you for your child coming over and just,
Right.
Yeah.
And so I said, this is a Life is Good shirt. And I showed her, the little tag. And she said, oh, are we in your way? And I said, no, I'm just going to get some sweet potatoes for my horse. And we started talking. And then you could see the mom relax.
Right.
That, she knew that this wasn't somebody that was going to judge her or treat her child poorly. And then she wanted to fist bump me, and it was so adorable.
Yeah.
And it just warmed my heart.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that, like you said, if you're not around the population, you're not really sure how to be.
Right. Well, there's defense on both sides too, because especially as, somebody that they might be coming into a center, or they might be coming to talk to you, or they're interested in the egg, or those kind of things, anybody who isn't used to hanging out with this population is going to be on defense, because the kids' behaviors can be erratic and all that. but you also have parents who also have built up a defense over time, like you were just saying about that woman in the store. They're so used to being judged, and they're judging themselves very often for their kids' disruptive behavior, or what they're perceiving as dysregulation or disruptive behavior. And I don't know, it's like, you're so good, Gail, at calming people down in the first place anyway. You've got that beautiful, authentic heart. I mean, I know you and I've had a few cries together over time, and it's just nice. It's just nice to be able to break down those barriers and say, no, we're like going to see each other human being to human being, regardless of how somebody is presenting in the world. It's we really have to get there as a humanity as well too, because we're missing so much of what people that show up differently have to offer us. We have to get to the place where we're in that authentic connection and communication. So,
well, and that leads to the second thing too, about how you teach no judgment, and then no judgment in the parenting, because what you teach, people will take or they'll not take. It's, you are teaching them. And what I love is you're helping them to be better people. And the non-judgment is so important, because people think, I'm a parent, I have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sometimes you can't. I'm a parent of my horse, and I can't tell you why she does some of the things she does. And I just look at her and I go, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And I've had her act out my anger. And I know I wanted you to talk about some stories about that. Well, she was at a facility, a boarding facility, and she would just kick the wall, and people were they were hating her.
Mm-hmm.
They just hated her because
Oh.
she just kicked the wall over and over and over. And when you're so close emotionally to a pet, or, something like, what I deal with, she's a pet, and I couldn't see my own anger that she was acting out.
Mm-hmm.
So I called the animal communicator, and she said, Gail, you need to leave your shit at the door of your car, because when you go in there, she's feeling that.
Yeah.
And she's feeling that even though you're 10 miles away or 20 miles away, because everything's energy and it's connected. So share with us a couple of stories, because this is what's fascinating to me, how the kids are acting out the suppressed emotions of their loved ones.
Absolutely. Yeah. And horses and energetically sensitive children are very similar in many ways. I mean, it's, and I would say that anybody that doesn't have a physical voice in the world, in the way that you and I have a voice in the world, you might say, there's always another sense that opens up. There's always another capacity that opens up if one capacity is shut down, right? So people who are blind, right, have, they can feel, they can touch, they can sense, they can hear, everything's opened up for them. So for energetically sensitive children, and especially those that have no voice, have no way of communicating, their capacity to be aware of the subtle energy realm is just off the charts. I mean, on the one hand, that can make life very challenging. And on the other hand, if we know how to use that capacity, if we know how to engage that capacity, we can really grow as individuals ourselves exponentially, because they're picking up every little subtle nuance. So just like your horse, through your animal communicator is telling you to leave your shit at the door, because I'm picking up your anger. I think just about every parent I've ever spoken to over the last 25 years, when you start to talk to them about the fact that, do you notice that your child is picking up what you're feeling in any given moment? Once you point that out, and maybe sometimes they've already figured that out themselves, absolutely resounding yes, yes, yes. When I'm off, they're off, And so but the beautiful part is and I've had this happen. I mean, I have 4 daughters of my own. They're not diagnosed on the spectrum, and they reflect back to me, as every child does to their parent, the unintegrated aspects of themselves, right? So I always tell parents, number one, they don't reflect back your shit because they're trying to make you feel bad, or because they're trying to, punish you in some way. They're reflecting it back so that you can get a handle of what's not yet been integrated within you. So an example of that is, the child that's literally beating their head up against the wall, and I'll ask simple questions of parents like, how is this experience with your child frustrating for you? How are you beating your head up against the wall? Very often, just that conversation, just them bringing awareness and authenticity to it shifts the dynamics of what's going on, right? It's like I was in a classroom once with a teacher. I was as a pediatric speech pathologist. This was after I kind of had my experiences with Riley, and I had gone back to speech pathology for a while. And I was in a classroom with 5 4-year-olds who were all diagnosed as severely autistic, and most of them completely nonverbal. And there were like 5 assistants in the classroom, one for each kid plus the teacher. And this one little boy, he used to go up, and every time the teacher would sit and to read or to talk to the group, he would like leap out of his chair and he would grab her, or he would pinch her, or he would hit her. And she was just devastated. I mean, he wasn't doing it to anybody else in the classroom. And I asked her afterwards, I said, can you explain to me the ways in which you might beat up on yourself? Is this something that is kind of part of your internal process? And she was like in tears in 30 seconds going, oh my gosh, how do you know that about me? And I said, it's not so much what I know about you, it's what he knows about you. He's just mirroring that internal pattern so that you can see it. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so hard on myself. I beat up on myself all the time. I'm not sure I should be doing this. And what was amazing is the moment she had that conversation with herself and even vowed to be a little kinder to herself, this kid stopped beating her up, And so there's all kinds of different degrees of that, Gail, and a gazillion experiences of that. But if the behavior is still bothering us, then there's probably some trigger in it that we can mine for our own evolution. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so beautiful. And I just, I get a kick out of it. Do you remember my dream? And there's someone from Australia. Hey, what's going on? The New Earth children are incredible teachers. I love it. The New Earth children. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. It's sending you love in Australia over there. Do you remember the dream I had with the kids riding the horses and the bears?
I remember the dream. I don't remember the details. So
I'm walking through a really like desert type of area, and the 2 kids, one girl who was older and one boy who was nonverbal, were coming out through on horses, and there were bears everywhere, and I was so scared. And the little girl said, just get on the back of his horse and we'll walk you through. And you shared with me how much that they were protecting me and sharing with me and helping me. And it was just such a beautiful dream because they were just lovely. And the bears never got up. They were just very, but you see a bear, oh my God, it's a bear. But they were so supportive and so loving towards me. And that was kind of in the middle of creating the harmonic egg. And I really think a lot of the information about it came from them, because I can't claim to know how this works. Mm-hmm. It vibrates at such a high frequency. We have amazing testimonials. Mm-hmm. And then I try to stay in a place of humility and love, but I'm also human and I don't beat myself up. But my mirror every day is my horse. If she turns her back on me and puts her butt to me, I know that I'm not being authentic. So every day I get to do the check-in with, where am I today?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I've had so many kids, especially when I was still working with kids physically instead of, working more with their parents, and that they literally would, one way or another, it's like they would just say, leave it at the door. It's like, I can feel this. Or I had kids type out, what's wrong at home. Literally I'm going, wow. I've had kids come in. I had one occupational therapist that I worked with a long time ago, who was, just newly pregnant, hadn't told us, hadn't told her husband, hadn't told anybody. And one of the kids just walked up and said, hey, you're going to have a baby. And her like eyes were like, how do you know that? It's like, there's an energetic field that, just like your horse, that they pick up all the time.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, and to your dream, Gail, I mean, they are kind of leading us, or they can lead us through this minefield of authenticity or inauthenticity, and we can really utilize that skill set to help us come deeper and deeper into who we are in truth, to the love that we actually are. Because, first and foremost, I think when you have a child diagnosed on the spectrum, one of the first things that really starts to happen is you need to, not need to, but maybe you're invited to learn to love beyond what you thought you could love. Yep. And that's not just your child. That's all the stuff that comes up within us, when we're afraid of them, or we're in some shame, blame, or guilt, or when we're not absolutely convinced that we have the capacity to handle what's been gifted to us, And so, I mean, from the very beginning, it comes up. It's like, okay, we're going to go down this road together. You're going to be offered the opportunity to love parts of yourself that you never even knew you needed to love. And that's, to me, I see that as one of the most amazing gifts of both working with this population and working with their families. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if we could see more love, we would see less disease. I really believe that
100%.
Disease lives in, fear and lack
Separation.
and hate and shame and guilt. And this is what I'm constantly teaching, the clients that I still see, and then center owners, to educate their clients to stay in a place of love, because, cancer feeds off the fear and the hate and the, and all the low vibe stuff. And so when we can live in a place of love, I think we're going to see less disease. And it's hard. It's hard to love somebody that cuts you off in traffic. It's hard to love somebody that, does something to you, because we don't see it the way that the kids do, that everything is an expression of a learning experience or a mirror, or, sometimes I just know that I attract things for my own lessons.
Yeah, absolutely. We all do. I mean, I think that's why we're here. I mean, that's the gift of being in a space and a place that provides all of those mirrors. Again, if we try to bat those away and say, oh, that's not me, or I'm not looking at that, we miss this opportunity to really kind of return to the love that we were when we got here. Yeah. I've been talking to a lot of people in the people in the mentorship right now. We've been discussing the fact that, we come in as this pure light, this love, this innocence, that source self, so rich, and available. And you only have to see a newborn baby to just kind of know that that's it, right? That's what you're looking at. And then there's all this layering that happens because we move into because we're in the families that we're in, because we're being taught how to quote unquote survive. human experience based on what somebody else has survived before us. And so we get imprinted with all this crap, you know, and they're not meaning to do it that way. It's that they're just trying to keep us safe. So we get imprinted with all of this. And then, you know, we forget, that's when we move into this separation. We forget that we always have been love. We always have been innocence. That purity has always existed. It just got covered up by what was not authentic to who and what we actually are. And I think we spend the rest of our lives kind of unveiling or peeling off those conditions so we can go back to loving unconditionally. And I truly believe that that's available here on planet Earth, no matter how many people say it may not be. Yeah.
I had a doctor one time and I thought he was the biggest ass ever. And one day I just said to him, I just said to him one day, I was like, I don't understand why I could put a picture of my horse in the harmonic egg and then all of a sudden the little cyst on her chest is gone in a day. Mm-hmm. Or I put a little kid into the harmonic egg in 16 minutes. They're like, okay, ring the doorbell. I'm done. And then, then the spine straightens out or the ear infection goes away. And I said, how is this possible? The kids and the animals heal so fast. And he said, if we only knew love, we could heal so fast. And I had to look at the phone. I'm like, am I talking to the same doctor? Because that was just such a profound thing that really stuck with me. If we only knew love, we could heal so fast. Yeah. So we're going to go to a commercial break and then let's continue talking about this because it spills over into plants and our food and our water and Emoto's work with love and hate on a glass and how, so we'll pick that back up.
Sounds great.
OMTimes TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities. Sound and light therapy have been used in healing for thousands of years. In today's fast-paced world, our bodies and minds are more stressed than ever. Stress is known to be the number one reason for many diseases and illnesses. Current lifestyles are causing premature deaths and preventable diseases. What can you do? Get a lift. A powerful, self-evolving resonant sound and light chamber reduces stress, can be used daily, and offers individuals peace and tranquility while restoring the body and mind to its natural state of vitality. Visit letitflowtherapy.com.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you.
And we're back. I just like saying that because I'm goofy. So we were talking about love and, that's what I love about the 60s music and even the 70s music. And then you get into the 80s music and you start getting in more of the hate and then the rap music and, slash somebody's tires and kill your mother. And I mean, I just love
more
the music.
More separation.
So full of love. And so I have this satellite radio and Sirius radio, and I always listened to the 60s music, the 70s music, and the Beatles and Love Is All There Is. And I just, it just resonates more with me. And maybe I had a past life before I was born in 70. Maybe I was, I don't know. It feels like I can sing every song. I know all the lyrics. I don't know, but a lot of my childhood was around, listening to this music as well. Mm-hmm. But I go outside. We had a bad hailstorm last night, and I was outside this morning, and I'm talking to all my trees. I got 16 trees now, and they're all pretty new, just planted a year ago. So I had to see how they survived. And I mean, everything is energy. Yeah. And a lot of my neighbors, because I live it's a high desert, so it's all sand. So a lot of things don't live here. But I actually put all the trees into a harmonic egg session when I got them. It was a lot of money to plant all these trees, and I didn't want to lose them because I'm also frugal. Yeah. But I love the trees. I would hate to see something die. I hate to see anything die. And so I was out there and looking at see what kind of damage. And I said, oh, you did pretty well. And then the Austrian pines with their pine needles, they did really well. Mm-hmm. But the poor lilies are coming up, and the leaves are just trashed. And the autumn blaze maples, their leaves don't look so good. But I'm like, oh, you did okay. And you did okay. Oh, this was tough for you. And I'm talking to them. But we have this energy field. Mm-hmm. And so I think the harmonic egg sessions, the love, all my trees survived, and 50% of my neighbors have lost 50% of their trees.
Right. I love that they were in the egg. I mean, even from the standpoint of it being an egg, like that cosmic womb space, kind of thing. It's like, I just love that. Yeah. Plants, animals, everybody just gets to be in that space, and you get to see the benefit of being in that space. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just feel like the pets that we put in, there's so much energy that needs to be healed. And so we're now doing sessions on people's land and clearing their houses, just like shamans, sometimes when shamans do work on you, they clear you and they clear the land, because sometimes you're picking something up from the land. And we know about ley lines and geopathic stress, and you'll see a line of trees in a diagonal, all dead. Mm-hmm. And you wonder, what is that line? It's a diagonal line. What is going on with that? Right. And so I try to clear that, and have some neighbors who are very angry and very sad. And I don't have the permission to put them in the egg, but I got permission from the land to put their land in the egg. And I actually have seen them being softer and gentler and kinder. It's just the energy of that.
I just worked with a woman last week, a friend of mine, and I worked with her, and same thing. She was having all kinds of challenges, both with her land and with her home. There was a woman that had died in her home that, again, very angry, and she has, a highly energetically sensitive son. And of course, he can pick up that energy much easier than most of us can. And not only pick it up, but kind of trying to bat it away and trying to reorganize it. And over time, it just gets to be a lot, for these kids that are picking up that kind of information as well. But again, you clear the house, you clear the energy, or the, you might say, the entity of someone who has passed. And that's it. It's like, and then all of a sudden the child literally shows you, it's like, okay, I don't have to deal with that anymore. Yeah. So this whole thing about, everything literally is energy, and it makes no difference whatsoever what it actually is. It is first and foremost energy. It's just that these kids are so damn good at picking that up. That's what I mean. It's like, if we watch them and we're aware, we can learn so much about those subtle energy fields. It's important for us to learn about that, because the more we do, the more we understand that is exactly what we are. We're just variations of energetic fields, or what I call information fields.
Yeah. And there is no time or space. And time or space doesn't exist. So in the chat, there's some comments, but I did a session in the New Zealand Harmonic Egg. And apparently in New Zealand, they're very respectful of the trees and the land and beautiful. I was in the session remotely, my picture, and I just had a desire to go out to my trees. Usually I'll just lay there and I'll, kind of just meditate and, feel into my body. What do I feel? But I just wanted to be out with the trees. And so I've done, I think you've done a remote session with the Peru
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
and
awesome.
It was so powerful. And she called in Pachamama and, Mother Gaia, and just so powerful because, how many thousands and miles away is that? And you can still feel the energy. And as more eggs are nesting, we're feeling that they're more and more powerful. So before
interconnectedness,
they're connected, right? Everything's connected.
Yeah, totally.
And so, how is it? I want to get to this point. How is it so important for the parents to do the healing along with the children?
110%. It's so. What I've noticed is that kids will make all kinds of different gains with other, technologies like the harmonic egg or anything else that diet, all these different things. They'll make a certain amount of gain, and then they'll typically hit a plateau of some sort. And what I notice is that, because most of these children, when I communicate with them telepathically or connect with that consciousness, a lot of times what they're sharing with us or with me is that they're here clearing the lineage, right? Not just even their families, but the lineage. And they have that capacity. So something that's passed down in the DNA, as a propensity towards something, whatever it is, maybe usually there might be a propensity maybe towards aggression, or maybe there's a propensity towards addiction, or there's a particular pattern that plays out between the masculine and the feminine coming down the line. And these kids in many ways, they'll say, yeah, sorry, nope, we're not coming fully into the body. We're not coming fully in until some of this gets cleared up. Yep. What's amazing though, Gail, is when it starts to get cleared up, when people, parents especially, start working with some of their traumas that never got resolved, or some of the patterns that came down through their lineage. The moment that starts getting cleared up, then the kids start, of course, mirroring the change. They start mirroring the difference. So whether they do that kind of work through integration work, with me, or through the harmonic egg with you, or anything in between, quite frankly, any way in which we can integrate or chip away at those patterns that came down through the lineage line, the kids will almost reward the parents in some ways by saying, okay, I'm going to show you this instead of what I was showing you. Yeah. There's inherited trauma in the DNA, and some people don't even believe that. It's 100% the case. Yeah. And I think that we all miss the degree to which that inherited DNA is playing out time and time and time again. It's like it's creating the patterns that we establish for our lives. And if we don't talk about that, we don't give ourselves permission to go, that's probably that pattern that I picked up. It's probably not even me. Right. Doesn't, where we blame and shame ourselves for, I should be able to get over this addiction, or I should be able to do this way, or whatever. The moment that we even consider, could that have come down through a family line? Is that something we're just picking up? The moment that we don't blame or shame ourselves for that is the moment that we can be responsible for it. Yeah. And I've heard before, I can't remember who said this, but it's like, it's not our fault that we have certain yeah, patterns, you might say. It is, however, our responsibility. But we don't know that we can take that responsibility until we stop blaming and shaming ourselves for something that we only picked up because we were swimming in the soup of somebody else's DNA. We were coming through a certain womb space. You know, they weren't purposely throwing that out at us. We were just absorbing it. And that's why I love the metaphor too, the portal, if you will, of the harmonic egg. I mean, it puts us back in a womb space, and actually a womb space that, holds our highest good, you know? And I
I'm
think
a
it's a
pole
great opportunity.
Yeah, and there's so many new modalities coming out. I'm so excited. You've got some other stuff that you use. The harmonic egg's not the end all be all. And there's more that are coming out that are non-invasive that are going to help us to heal the DNA using nature sounds, not synthesized nature sounds, but real nature sounds. And Joe Dispenza talks about a lot of this. But I'm of the Polish descent, and so my ancestors came over on a boat, and I was always afraid of money. I repelled money like crazy. And then I realized that's not my shit.
Yeah.
That's their shit. So I did some deep meditations of money. And I remember the things that my dad said to me. You have to work for every penny, you know, and he should have said, you have to work for every $1,000, right?
Every million. Yeah.
Every $1 million, you know. And then he would say, you know, honey, you're always trying to buy steaks with hamburger money. You know, I'm like, you know what? I deserve a damn steak. I work my tail off. I work so hard to serve. And then once I started shifting my brain to the energy of money, because it's energy. So you exchange the energy of money for the energy of time, or the energy of money for a session in the harmonic egg, or the energy of money for food, or the energy of money. Once I did that, it's just moving zeros around. It could be 6 zeros or 10 zeros.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Well, and that's it. It's like, but until we do what you just said you did, which is go back and actually kind of say, okay, these are my patterns. These are the beliefs that I hold so dear, and I don't even know why I hold them like that. You know, it's like, it's not until we actually go back and have those conversations with those parts of ourselves that still believe that we integrate that particular pattern, and we relieve ourselves of that stream of consciousness, you might say, that just literally just came down through us. You know, I mean, honestly, I keep thinking it's like, if we were teaching children how to do this from the get-go, if we were teaching them, you know, that some of the things that they're picking up, even from a really early age, that don't make them feel so good about themselves, that's an indicator that it's not about them. It doesn't feel good to you because it's not resonant to who you know yourself to be. Yeah. If we taught that from a very early age, you know, talk about the level of trust that people would have in the love that they actually are. Yeah.
No, it's crazy.
I say a lot that we're not here for getting love. That creates forgetfulness. We're not here for getting love. We're here for giving it.
Yeah.
You know, we're here as love. And so it's meant to be offered. It's meant to be given. You know, it's not meant to be forgotten.
But then there has to be the balance, because a lot of people give so much love and then they get treated like crap. And so they keep giving, and you watch this codependency and these relationships that are so dysfunctional, and you want to just hug this person and say, you're worth more than that.
Right. Well, and I also, I don't equate that. I don't equate that with giving love, because to me, at least in my world, we can only give love to the capacity that we've loved ourselves.
Yes.
And if we're giving in order to receive love, then we've again forgotten who we are.
You're right. You're right. 100%. Yeah.
And I feel like that there's this opportunity, you know, that's why I keep saying to people, it's like, when these things come up, when these triggers, when these discomforts, go to them instead of run away from them.
Right. Triggers are treasures. I keep saying that. Triggers are treasures. Triggers are treasures.
They are. They really are. And we don't know that until we're able to be present to that trigger.
Yeah.
And the whole world will teach us to run away from it. Go pop a pill, go do this, go do that, do whatever you need to do in order to not feel that feeling. But oh my God, like you say, the treasure that comes through that felt perception, amazing. I mean, that's our evolution.
I love it. I love my triggers. I am so grateful. I had a $5 bag of horse shavings one time, and I was going to go put them in my horse's stall. And I remember walking back out to my truck, and I was like, oh, I know someone's going to have stolen that. It was a gated community. I said, I just knew it was going to be gone when I got there. I said, okay, where is this coming from? Mm-hmm. And it went all the way back to when I was a baby or a child. And my brother would steal things out of my room, and then I would go steal them back. But he was a better hider than me. So most of the time he ended up with it. But that came up at 45 years old. And I'm like, oh my gosh, someone's going to have stolen that from me.
Yeah.
And I went back and I where that energy was coming from. And it was 35 years before, so I love it. And we just need to learn to love ourselves more.
Yeah.
This is going by so fast, but I want to go back to the diet. I want to go back to the diet stuff.
Okay.
No matter how much healing you do, I want you to talk to us a little bit about the diet, because I have a couple neighbors with kids on the spectrum, and we had a neighborhood party, and I think the girl had 10 cupcakes. Mm-hmm. And I thought, she was in joy because she wanted these cupcakes, and the mom allowed it, but I bet you it was a hell of a night.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too about that sugar rush that, that the kids really, on the one hand, will go for over and over again. In many ways, that buzz that is that sugar rush feels very similar to the buzz they have by not being fully in the body. Like when you're anchored in the body, you don't have that zzz, like you're just zzz, almost like that chaotic kind of energy that can be there. So I see very easily why the kids gravitate towards that and why they think, oh, that feels like what I feel like. So we're going to more and more and more and more and more. The problem is that if no one kind of creates a limit around that, or if no one kind of actually teaches them to feel safe in their bodies, when we're buzzing like that, we don't feel safe in our bodies. I know the more sensitive, and you and I've talked about this, the more sensitive we become, the less things like sugar or alcohol, big sugar too, the less sugar is something that we can tolerate, right? Because we feel better in our bodies. We've worked hard to ground into our bodies. We worked hard to get here. And so anything at some point, anything that makes you feel like you're up and out doesn't feel so good anymore, right? So for the kids to be introduced to foods and to supports that actually, generally speaking, this isn't always the case, but generally speaking, foods that really make them feel more anchored, more present, more nurtured. Yep. Foods that are actually nurturing the body instead of giving them that buzz that sends them up and out.
Yeah.
Again, I see this a lot where, somebody might want their child to be more present, but as long as that up and out energy is being perpetuated, there's no invitation for them to come down and be present. Mm-hmm. And also, a lot of times, if we have a conversation about that, a lot of times we're going to find that maybe that might be a way in which, a parent or a professional or somebody else has gotten through their life. It's like, I need a little sweetness to life, so I'm going to go in that direction. And it becomes somewhat of an addiction in one way or another. But again, just having these conversations, having compassion for these patterns is a really great way to invite parents to another way of being around themselves, loving themselves in that way, and thus inviting the kids to that as well. I just keep saying to parents, like, we just want to create an invitation to be here, to literally be here and really enjoy being here. And you think about how most people go around living their lives. I mean, most people don't want to be here, so what kind of invitation is that to someone who's up and out of their body? So how do we get to, enjoy food, enjoy our lives, enjoy the physical world, enjoy being in a body? I mean, that's been a lifelong experience for me, I know. It's like, so, but once we get there, we create that invitation.
Yeah. Oh, I love the chat. There's so many good things I can't even cover because we're running out of time, but I'm so glad you're loving this. Yeah, because I used to be addicted to sugar. And a lot of the shamans that I know, they say, oh, I got to have a cigarette. I got to have a pot. I got to have chocolate. I got to have something to bring myself down. And they get buzzing so high. And so it's been really interesting because I can't handle a lot of sugar anymore, refined sugar. And it's really clear to me. And I see people drinking the Starbucks coffee and I'm like, oh, that's 60 sugar grams. That would kill me. Or a Blizzard, there's 120 sugar grams. I mean, for me, I buy those little siete grain-free cookies, a Mexican wedding cookie or Mexican shortbread cookies. And I have one. And my boyfriend's like, how could you just eat one? I'm like, that's all I need. Sometimes I'll have a little piece of dark chocolate, but it's been really interesting to watch.
I do see and think that there is a difference too, because there's something about the embodiment as we embody. I've seen this, like with shamans or like with saints and sages. And, it's like you see them. I watched an old mentor of mine. She was as profound as anybody I've ever met, really. And you'd go and see her. She'd be smoking a cigarette, or she, and didn't impact her capacity in the least.
Right.
And I remember a long time ago watching a little kid. His mom called because all he was eating was potato chips, and she was freaked out. Just, oh my gosh. And my spiel would be the same one that we're having right now. It's like good diet, good health, good, whatever. And I went to say that, and he said, wait a minute. He goes, watch what I'm doing. And I said, okay. So I stopped, and this kid would put the energy that he put that in his hand. By the time it got to his mouth, it was what his body needed. And I was going, okay, I can't even really understand what I just saw. Yeah. But he said, most people are what they eat. He said, but at a certain level of awareness or consciousness, you make what you eat, what you need it to be for your body.
Right. And if you do anything in joy, right? And you do it in joy. People are like, I'm eating this ice cream and I feel so guilty and I'm going to get fat. Well, then it's bad for you. If you eat the ice cream and say, I love this, it's nourishing me, it's, whatever it's doing, it's so great. And just like, I wanted to talk about Emoto's work, when he puts the water bottle, one says love and one says hate, and then he waters the plant with the hate and the plant dies. What we put into our bodies, what we feed our bodies, the words that we use, the food that we eat, everything is feeding that energy of the body. And we're out of time. Tell people more about how they can find you. I love you so much. You know that. How can people find you? I know we're doing the scholarship thing with your company, and because the Harmonic Egg created a ministry to give back. So you're my number one give back. I love it. So tell people how to reach you.
Yes. So SuzyMiller.com, and I'm SUZY Miller.com. And like Gail was saying, she made a generous donation. This year, we have a mentorship program with 15 families. We're taking them through a 6-month process. And so some of those families got the benefit of having a little bit reduced tuition because of the Harmonic Egg and Gail's contribution. So yeah, there's a lot of fun things going on there. So check it out and see. We'd love to
So
see
do you
you.
do one-on-ones anymore, or are they just mostly group sessions? And you have the programs, right?
Yeah. So I currently am doing one-on-one sessions. If you want that kind of thing, do it before the end of the year, because I'm going to stop doing that. We've just gotten so inundated that we're going to be doing a lot more group offerings. We do
Not
have
enough of
something-
Suzy to go around. You gotta.
it's like, it's amazing and it's fun, and I'm really grateful for all of it. And at the same time, I think, we have to reevaluate all the time, like how we are being of service the best. We only have so many Gails and Suzys to go around, or time in our days. So we just want to, yeah. So yeah, we do have something called the New World Portal community on our website, which truly is. It's a pretty flippin' amazing community. It's people who are really working with their
You're
own
doing
environment.
great work. I love you so much, and
Thank you. You too.
I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Lots of love.
This show is not intended to diagnose, prevent, or treat any diseases or illnesses. The information presented within cannot substitute the advice of your physician or other trained healthcare professionals. The content of this show is for educational purposes only and is the expressed opinion of the show host and guests.